one of the things that habits do is help us see. Think about athletes. We always think about athletes as those who can see things. Wayne Gretzky could kind of, anticipate the play, could see things about a half a second faster than everyone else. That's why he was so good. He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest, but he could see better than anyone else. There's a really interesting new development in athletic research on this, which actually has connections to the University of Waterloo, which I'll go through in a minute. But the old view was that great athletes just had quick reaction time. They could see things, they could pick up things faster than untrained average people, right? But the studies show that's not true, right? You have about 200 milliseconds, 1/5 of a second, right? And if I would take something and throw it at Darcy over there, he would react at a speed that's no faster than, let's say, Wayne Gretzky, okay? So in terms of just basic raw reaction time, there's absolutely no difference from great athletes to ordinary people. But then the question is, where is the difference? It looks like the difference is actually in learned perceptual activity, okay? Learning how to read and pick up scenes. One of the great examples of this is in a book by David Epstein called The Sports Gene, which you should all read. There's all kinds of genetic stuff, but here's one instance in which it's not just genetic. Epstein opens his book with a story of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, I don't know when, and probably late 90s. Barry Bonds was still playing, Albert Pujols. And they always had a softball game as part of the festivities, and at one point, the American League team had on its, actually it was management, she wasn't a player, Jenny Finch, who was a great American fastball pitcher, won a number of gold medals, I think. And the American League team was down, and so they took the unusual step of bringing in Jenny Finch to pitch. And I think Albert Pujols was at the plate. This is softball, okay? So we're not playing baseball. We're not throwing overhand. The plate is 60 feet 6 inches, just like it is. It's 45 feet. Is it in softball? So it's not baseball. Finch can't pitch as fast as a major league pitcher, 95-ish kilometers an hour. But when you account for all of that, the pitch that she was doing came in at about the same speed. The same time from when it left her hand to when it crossed the plate as when Albert Pujols is facing any major league pitcher, where he regularly crushes balls over the fence, right? Bats, 350 or so over the course of his career. Well, Finch comes in and he couldn't touch her, right? He ended up looking like a little kid playing his first baseball game. Why? Not because, it wasn't reaction time. In terms of reaction time, it was exact same amount of speed. What he couldn't do is pick up the pattern, right? He'd been learned to read a baseball coming in overhand, and when it comes in underhand, it's a completely different thing, right? He hadn't learned how to see that, right? So Janet Starks, who is the sports scientist who kind of figured this out, developed what she called an occlusion test. It arises out of volleyball. She took a bunch of volleyball photos and digitally removed the ball from some, and in some the ball was not in this, it hit and bounced out. And she gave a whole bunch of slides to a variety of athletes, volleyball players, some of them good, some of them amateur, some of them less good, and then other non-volleyball players, and asked them in kind of a blink of the eye if they could tell where the ball was, right? And you and I, maybe there's some good volleyball players, but certainly I would not do very well in this test because we don't know how to read, we don't know how to see volleyball, right? I simply haven't been trained in that. My training is elsewhere. But when you give it to the University of Waterloo, is a good volleyball school, or was at the time anyway, and had some Olympic athletes there, they could tell exactly where the ball was, right? In fact, in a blink of an eye, they could tell you who the players on the court were, right? You can just read things and see things that much quicker. So the good athlete is capable of seeing things that others simply miss, that they just can't see. And I think that's what Christianity is all about too. Christianity teaches us to see things that are otherwise missed. And in a sense, this is what the language of miracles is all about, Um, some people can't see it, right? But when we learn how to see, and when we've trained the capacity for vision, then we can see that some things are there. The enemy isn't always the enemy. The stranger isn't always the stranger, right? The Christian tradition challenges these other ways of seeing, but it can only do so by forming a new people.